Widely considered to be one of, if not the oldest unsolved mystery in the history of America is the mystery of Roanoke Island. It's baffled millions of people for centuries, and despite a number of theories being put forward and massive innovations in technology, it remains unsolved to this day. 115 English settlers intending to establish the first permanent outpost for England in the New World vanished without a trace. The fort they had labored to construct now lay in ruins, and the only clue to what transpired, a single cryptic word carved into a wooden post in the fort's outer fence: Croatoan. What happened to all those colonists? What did that strange word mean? And why does the ghost of the New World's first English-born person still haunt the region to this day? Join me as I explore these gripping questions in our quest to solve Croatoan, the mystery of Roanoke Island. Initially founded in 1585 by Governor Ralph Lane on orders from Sir Walter Raleigh, a favorite of the crown, the colony was established on Roanoke Island in an area that is now Dare County, North Carolina. Unfortunately, poor relations with local indigenous tribes and supply issues caused Lane to abandon the colony in 1586. Sir Walter sent a second expedition, which arrived in 1587, this one led by Governor John White. The colony quickly constructed a fort near Chesapeake Bay, calling it the City of Raleigh. But soon after, with food and wares running dangerously thin, again the colonists started pressuring White to return to England to stock up on supplies from Sir Walter. No sooner had White and his crew reached England than Queen Elizabeth I declared that every available ship under the English flag joined the fight against the Spanish Armada. Desperate to get back to his family, White didn't reach Roanoke Island again until August 18, 1590, when privateering ships, the Moonlight and the Hopewell, loaded with needed supplies, finally made landfall. On the evening of August 5th, 3 days before the group reached Roanoke, the two ships were anchored off the northern shores of Croatoan Island when the crew spotted some mysterious plumes of smoke billowing up from the unseen areas on Roanoke Island. The following morning, a similar plume of smoke was seen, originating on the southern tip of Croatoan Island, but when the crew investigated it, they found nothing. It took 2 days for White's group to navigate across Pamlico Sound, the largest lagoon along the North American East Coast, and several of his men lost their lives in the process. On August 17th, the crew spotted yet another fire, this one on the northern end of Roanoke Island. However, they didn't reach land until well after sunset and didn't want to risk going ashore in the dark. The next morning, the day of his granddaughter's 3rd birthday, Governor White finally reached the city of Raleigh again. It was immediately apparent that something had gone horribly wrong. The group found fresh tracks in the sand, but nobody from the colony greeted them. Terrified, White ran to the fort, crying out for his family as he sped through the trees, his crew trying their best to keep pace with him, stopping to note the letter CRO carved into a tree. When White got to the settlement, he found it surrounded by a palisade, an outer fence made of tree trunks as means of protection. The settlement was definitely fortified. However, every one of the roughly 115 colonists had vanished as if into thin air. Further investigation brought White to one particular part of palisade, a single column with a word carved into it: Croatoan. At first, White felt that the word Croatoan and the crow carved into the tree outside of the settlement meant that his family and the other colony members had relocated, for one reason or another, to Croatoan Island. Before he'd left, he'd established a secret code for the colonists to use if they were attacked or otherwise experienced duress, which was carving a cross or pate or leaving a token somewhere. Since neither of these actions have appeared to be taken, White was hopeful that the settlers had relocated relatively peacefully. Oddly, the entire settlement had been dismantled, with anything that could be carried away from the site now gone. 3 of White's large trunks, containing his personal belongings, had been dug up and emptied, and none of the colony's boats could be found. Unfortunately, the colony was never found on Croatoan Island either. and before he could further investigate, the Hopewell suffered damage. The decision was made to spend the winter in the warmer Caribbean islands and return to continue the search in the spring, but high winds ended that plan as well. John White was never reunited with his family, and despite several attempts at locating where the colony went, no clear answers were ever uncovered. A common theory says that the colonists had assimilated into a community of indigenous people after losing hope that the supplies would ever arrive in time from England. Yet, no definitive evidence of this having ever taken place was found either. Additionally, hostility between English settlers and those native to the area were constantly in flux, leading to many believing this to be an unlikely answer to this incredible mystery. Another theory suggests that the settlement was attacked by a local tribe, with the colonists' bodies being burned, buried, or even taken away. However, Governor White and his crew had noted that, though the fort was in disrepair, there was no sign that a significant battle had taken place. Other theories included conspiracies by the Crown, by the Spanish army, and even by Sir Walter Raleigh, who may have sent the colonists to harvest sassafras along the Alligator River before he himself was executed for treason in 1618. Today, the lost colony is a mystery covered in popular media, with explanations that include a zombie-like plague, curses, or even witches. But if you ask those who live in the area where the fort once stood, you may be alarmed to hear of just how many paranormal events have taken place in the region. The colony is one of local legends, with many claiming to experience unexplainable occurrences such as shadows that move on their own or loud noises in the dead of night with no discernible source. Visitors and locals alike believe that the area is most definitely haunted, with the spirits of the tortured and massacred colonists now tormenting the still living. It's also believed that because of the large number of sudden deaths in the area, it's created a sort of paranormal hotspot which can draw all sorts of nightmarish entities. Yet another paranormal explanation for the lost colony incorporates a Native American belief in a sinister spirit that takes over human beings and drives them to feast on human flesh. This creature is called a Wendigo, and if this is the true answer to the question of what happened at Roanoke, then it also means these evil beings could still be out there in the forests of the island, searching for their next meal and victim. The indigenous belief system also tells of a spirit that can merge people into nature. If angered by the settlers, this spirit may have actually punished them by turning them into trees, rocks, or even animals. Perhaps the colony isn't lost at all, but is still there as part of the landscape. But then there's the reptilian devil in the woods, an evil entity that attaches itself to a person, making them paranoid, greedy, or even violent. It's believed by some of the indigenous peoples that the settlers became agitated after White left for England and turned on each other as they lost hope, thanks to the influence of this reptilian devil. But out of all the ghost stories, none of them are more prevalent than the ghost known as the White Doe. Though it's typically considered good fortune and the promise of divine blessings to encounter a white deer in the wild on Roanoke Island, it's a sign of something else entirely. On August 18, 1587, just 9 days before Governor John White left the Roanoke Island colony for England to seek aid, his daughter gave birth to a baby girl, Virginia Dare. This girl was the first English child born in the New World. According to a legend that's widely known among North Carolina residents and Lost Colony researchers, the Roanoke fort was actually attacked by an angry Algonquin tribe led by a man named Wanchese. Virginia and her parents, Eleanor and Ananias Dare, were among the few English survivors who fled, thanks to the help of the mother Algonquin man named Manteo. However, soon after, the elder Dares both died, leaving Virginia orphaned. Manteo and his tribe took the young girl in, calling her Winona, which appropriately meant firstborn daughter, and raised her to adulthood. Beautiful and full of grace and spirit, Winona caught the attention of many men in local tribes, including a man named Chico, who was actually a witch doctor said to harness powerful magics. However, the young woman chose a handsome partner named Okisco. Chico decided that if he could not possess the lovely Winona, that no man ever would, and with a spell, he transformed her into a doe with the fur the color of snow. For many years, the white deer was spotted all around the island, often seen grazing by the ocean, as if looking for her grandfather to return. But despite being trained hunters and trappers, no one could catch or take down the graceful animal. Realizing the mounting frustration in the hearts of his tribesmen, Wanchese ordered that the white doe be killed, personally leading a hunting party. Meanwhile, a broken-hearted Okisco received a magical arrow from a rival of Chico's, said to change Winona back into a human should it pierce the animal's heart. Both Okisco and Wanchese managed to find the animal and shoot it in the heart with separate magical arrows at the exact same time. A gray mist formed around the doe as it fell, and when the mist disappeared, Winona was back to her human form, only without a heartbeat. Devastated, Okisco had his beloved buried in the abandoned fort of the lost colony. Fast forward to today, and hunters still tell their own tales of encounters with a white doe in the woods near where Roanoke Fort once stood, often with descriptions of it having a ghostly presence or appearing at exactly midnight and disappearing as the sun rises. And when locals hear these tales, there isn't a doubt in their minds that the being is the ghost of Virginia Dare, the firstborn of the lost colony. So, what happened to the 115 settlers at the colony on Roanoke Island? Were they slaughtered by the Algonquin tribe? Were they whisked away by some evil entity? Or did they simply move to avoid a natural disaster? And what of Croatoan, the obscure word inscribed into the fort's walls? Is this a location the name of which was left behind to guide White and his crew to find his family and fellow colonists? Or is it the name of the creature or group responsible for the deaths of the settlers? Curious still are the many ghost stories and sightings that have occurred and continue to occur in that area around where the fort once stood. Are these apparitions the spirits of the lost colonists? Or perhaps the entities that took them are still there, wandering the woods in search of more victims? It seems that the closer we look at this chilling mystery, the crazier it becomes. But that's all for this time. I hope you guys enjoyed this documentary style video. And of course, if you enjoyed it, please leave a like, comment, and share this video. It helps me out tremendously in the algorithm. And of course, follow me on Twitch. Link is in the description. And that's it. I will see you guys in the next video.